It was supposed to be perfect. The sky was clear, the vineyard alive with light and love, or what looked like it, was in the air. Guests laughed. Champagne poured. Cameras flashed. It was the kind of day people posted online with the caption, "Forever starts now." But not all forevers last. Because just a few hours later, in that same vineyard, a man would lie motionless on the floor, and the woman wearing his ring would be whispering a secret she swore she'd take to the grave. This wasn't just a wedding. It was the beginning of the end. Ethan Cole was everything a woman could want: stable, kind, successful. A man who believed in loyalty, in promises, in family. His bride, Alicia Martin, was the definition of grace, soft-spoken, intelligent, breathtaking. To everyone watching, they were a match made in heaven. But those who believe in fairy tales forget, heaven doesn't always last till morning. Because Alicia wasn't marrying for love. She was marrying for safety. And she had learned early that sometimes that's enough. Alicia didn't grow up around love. She grew up around survival. Her mother used to say things that sounded cruel, but to her, they were just truth. Love don't feed you, baby. Find someone who can. That was the first one, the rule that shaped her world. By 16, Alicia had seen love ruin people. Women who gave everything to men who left them with nothing. Her mother said another line she'd never forget. A man's promise can't pay rent, sweetheart. His wallet can. And by the time Alicia turned 21, she'd learned the third one, the one that silenced her heart completely. If you have to choose between butterflies and a bank account, pick the one that lasts longer. So when Ethan Cole walked into her life, charming, responsible, the kind of man who meant what he said, she didn't see him as a dream. She saw him as insurance. Ethan wanted forever. Alicia wanted security. And for a while, that arrangement worked perfectly, until Ethan introduced her to his younger brother. Ryan Cole was the opposite of everything Alicia thought she wanted. He was unpredictable, the kind of man who'd drive all night just to see the sunrise. He wrote songs about heartbreak, believed in chasing dreams, and lived like consequences didn't exist. If Ethan was the anchor, Ryan was the storm. And storms were dangerous, but also intoxicating. The first time Alicia met him was at a family dinner in Nashville. Ethan went to bed early that night, exhausted from work. Ryan stayed behind. They talked for hours about music, about risk, about the kind of love that burns even when it hurts. By midnight, she was laughing like she hadn't in years. By 1 a.m., she was lost. It started with a moment, a look, a touch that lingered too long. And before either of them could stop it, they crossed the line. Alicia told herself it was nothing, a mistake, something she'd bury and forget. But temptation doesn't stay buried. Every text, every secret meeting, every breathless excuse, it all pulled her deeper. Ryan made her feel alive in a way Ethan never did. He made her feel like she was worth the risk. But love built on lies never lasts long. Because soon, Alicia discovered something that made her blood run cold. She was pregnant. And in that moment, she knew she was trapped. Alicia stood in front of her mirror one night, hand resting on her stomach, whispering her mother's words again. Love don't feed you, baby. Ryan wanted to tell Ethan the truth. He swore they could start over, together. But Alicia saw only disaster. She'd lose everything. The house, the status, the future she fought for. So she did the one thing she thought would save her. She lied. She told Ethan the baby was his. And Ethan, overjoyed and completely unaware, promised to make her the happiest woman alive. He meant every word. She meant none. October 4th, Charlottesville, Virginia. A golden afternoon. Rows of vines stretching into the horizon. 100 guests, all smiling, all recording a moment they'd never forget. Ethan stood at the altar, his eyes full of love. Alicia stood opposite him, her smile flawless. And Ryan, as best man, stood just a few feet away, his heart breaking in silence. Every word of the ceremony cut through him like glass. when the priest said, "If anyone has reason why these two should not be joined," Ryan almost spoke, but he didn't. He watched his brother slip the ring onto the woman carrying his child. And when the crowd applauded, he smiled, even though every part of him wanted to scream. By evening, the music was louder, the drink stronger. Guests were dancing, laughing, falling in love with the idea of love itself. But Alicia's eyes kept flicking to Ryan, and Ryan couldn't stop watching her. When she finally excused herself, saying she needed a break, Ryan followed moments later. They both disappeared upstairs into the bridal suite. And that was the last time anyone saw Ethan Cole alive. At 9:17 p.m., a staff member walking by heard shouting. A man's voice, then glass breaking, then silence. When the door finally opened, the scene inside looked like something out of a nightmare. Alicia was on the floor, her white dress stained dark. Ethan was lying beside the vanity, motionless. A bottle of champagne shattered beside him, and Ryan stood frozen, eyes wide, hands trembling. When police arrived, both Alicia and Ryan told the same story. Ethan slipped. It was an accident. But Detective Monroe, the first officer on scene, noticed something strange. Ethan's phone was on the bed. The screen was still lit, and on it, a voice recorder still running. He pressed play, and what came next made his blood run cold. The sound of an argument, a woman crying, a man's voice shouting, and then a faint whisper. "You were never supposed to hear this, Ethan."
Welcome to True Crime Files HQ, where we uncover gripping true and fictional crime stories that keep you hooked and leave you with powerful life lessons. Thank you so much for stopping by. Your support means everything. If you love stories that shock, inspire, and make you think, then you're in the right place. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so you never miss a chilling new story from us. And remember, every story hides a truth. Stay curious, stay safe.
The recording lasted only 2 minutes. But in those 2 minutes, everything changed. Detective Monroe replayed it 3 times. Each time, his jaw tightened a little more. The first voice was Ethan, angry, hurt. The second was Alicia, crying, begging him to listen. And the third voice, that was the one that didn't belong. Ryan. When Monroe stepped out of the suite, the night air was thick with whispers. Guests huddled together, their perfect evening unraveling. The bride was in shock, the best man silent, and somewhere between them, a secret was rotting. He looked at Ryan first. The man was pacing, eyes red, tie loosened, hands trembling as if the truth was already burning through his skin. "You said it was an accident," Monroe said calmly. "It was," Ryan replied, his voice low. "He slipped. I tried to help him." "Then why?" Monroe asked. "Does the recording say otherwise?" Ryan froze. That was the moment Monroe knew. Someone in that room wasn't telling the truth. The morning after the wedding felt colder than any October morning had the right to. The vineyard, once glowing with life, was now cordoned off with yellow tape. Reporters swarmed the gate. Headlines were already everywhere. CEO dies at own wedding. Brother and bride questioned in mysterious death. Inside, Alicia sat alone in the interrogation room. Her makeup was gone, her wedding dress replaced with a gray blanket draped over her shoulders. She wasn't crying anymore, just staring at nothing. Detective Monroe entered, closing the door gently behind him. He placed Ethan's phone on the table, the screen still cracked from the fall. "Mrs. Cole," he began, "do you know why your husband was recording that night?" Alicia blinked, her voice barely a whisper. "No, I don't. He pressed record 5 minutes before he entered the suite. He must have suspected something. Maybe he wanted proof." Alicia's fingers tightened around the edge of her blanket. "He didn't trust me?" Monroe tilted his head. Should he have? The pause that followed was louder than any scream. Alicia's mind replayed the night over and over. The shouting, the sound of glass, the way Ethan had looked at her before he fell. But in her version of the story, it was an accident, wasn't it? She could still hear her mother's voice echoing in her head, cold and clear as always. Love is only sweet when it pays the bills. Don't ever forget that, baby. And for the first time, Alicia wondered if maybe she'd learned that lesson too well. Meanwhile, across the hall, Ryan was unraveling. He sat hunched forward, elbows on his knees, staring at his blood-stained cuff. He hadn't said a word in over an hour. When Monroe entered his room next, Ryan finally looked up. "You think I killed him," he said. "I think something happened up there that you're both too scared to say," Monroe replied. Ryan laughed, a hollow, bitter sound. "You have no idea how messed up this is." "Then explain it," Monroe said. Ryan leaned back, staring at the ceiling. "You want the truth?" "Always." Ryan's next words turned the entire case on its head. Ethan wasn't supposed to die that night. Alicia was. The silence after that confession was suffocating. Detective Monroe didn't move, didn't blink. "What'd you just say?" Ryan swallowed hard, tears cutting down his face. "He found out. About us. About the baby." He was furious. I thought he was going to hurt her. I went up to stop him, and when I got there, he already had the bottle in his hand." Monroe's tone sharpened. "You're saying your brother tried to kill his wife on their wedding night?" Ryan nodded slowly. "That recording, it's not what you think. He pressed record to trap her, to make her confess. But when she told him the truth, he snapped." Monroe leaned forward. "And you? What did you do?" Ryan's lips trembled. "I pulled him off her. He fell, hit his head. It was over before I could even call for help." For the first time since the night began, Monroe didn't know what to believe. A jealous husband? A forbidden affair? Or something darker no one had admitted yet? But as he turned off the recorder and stood to leave, Monroe glanced at the evidence table one last time. Something about Ethan's phone, something small, caught his eye. The screen wasn't just cracked. It was chipped like it had been thrown. And underneath it, faintly visible in the shattered glass, a timestamp, 9:10 p.m., 7 minutes before Ethan was found dead, and 5 minutes before the shouting began. That meant only one thing. The recording everyone heard wasn't the last one. There was another file, one that someone had already deleted, and whoever deleted it wasn't finished yet. The news broke before sunrise. Police uncover new evidence in the death of Ethan Cole. The headline screamed across every network. But behind the cameras, in a locked evidence room, Detective Monroe was staring at something far worse than what the world thought they knew. He had found it, the deleted file, or at least a fragment of it. The tech team recovered only 37 seconds before the data corrupted. But those 37 seconds were enough to change everything again. The recording began with Ethan's voice, quieter this time, calmer. He sounded broken. "You said you loved me," he said. "You said this family meant something." Then Alicia's voice, trembling. "Ethan, please. You don't understand. Don't lie to me." There was a loud crash, a scream, and then a whisper, low and sharp, barely audible. "Don't you dare tell him the truth." Then static. The file ended, and Monroe realized something that sent a chill crawling up his spine. That last voice, it wasn't Ethan. It wasn't Alicia. It wasn't Ryan. It was someone else. By noon, the investigation had taken a darker turn. Alicia was released on bail, under heavy scrutiny. Ryan was still under questioning, refusing food, sleep, or legal counsel. But Monroe couldn't shake that voice, that unfamiliar tone that sounded like someone controlling the chaos. He sent the audio to forensics for voice isolation. The results came back 2 hours later. The voice matched a registered pattern. Not a guest, not a relative. It matched Vanessa Martin, Alicia's mother. That revelation cracked the entire case wide open. Vanessa hadn't attended the wedding, claimed she was too sick to travel, but her phone records said otherwise. She'd made 3 calls to Alicia that day, each one less than a minute. Each one just before the ceremony began. And at 9:02 p.m., minutes before Ethan's death, her phone pinged from a cell tower less than 5 miles from the vineyard. Monroe requested an interview. Vanessa arrived at the station looking exactly how Alicia always described her: immaculate, poised, the kind of woman who smiled with her teeth but not her eyes. "Detective," she said coolly, "I assume this is about my daughter's tragedy." Monroe nodded. "We recovered an audio file from the night of the incident." "You were there, weren't you?" Vanessa's smile faltered, just for a second. "I was nearby." Alicia was nervous. "I want to make sure everything went smoothly." "You were on the property?" She hesitated. "Not inside. I spoke to her through the phone." Monroe slid a photo across the table, the waveform analysis of her voice. "Then explain why your voice was recorded in the suite moments before Ethan Cole was killed." Vanessa's eyes flickered, a tiny, dangerous flash. "You think I had something to do with that boy's death?" "I think," Monroe said slowly, "you've been pulling the strings in your daughter's life for far too long." What followed was silence thick enough to suffocate. Vanessa leaned back, studying him like a chess piece she could move. "My daughter was always soft, too emotional. She needed guidance. I gave it to her." "Guidance?" Monroe asked. "Yes, to survive. You men ruin women with promises and call it love. I made sure she never ended up like me." Monroe's jaw tightened. "So you told her to marry Ethan?" Vanessa smiled faintly. "I told her to secure herself. There's a difference." "And when she fell for Ryan?" Vanessa's face hardened. "I told her to end it, but she didn't listen. So I want to make sure she did." That was the confession Monroe needed, but it wasn't enough. "So you were there that night?" he pressed. "I arrived late. I heard shouting upstairs. I went up, tried to calm things down." "And what happened next?" Vanessa's eyes darkened. "Ethan pushed her." She screamed. "Ryan ran in. There was chaos. I grabbed Alicia and told her not to say a word, not to ever tell the truth. Then he fell. And that was it." Monroe exhaled, realization dawning. "You told her to lie to the police." "I told her to survive." When Vanessa left the station that evening, the world still saw her as the grieving mother of the bride. No one knew she'd just confessed, indirectly, to manipulating a tragedy. But Monroe wasn't done yet, because something about her story didn't add up. Ethan's autopsy report arrived that night. Cause of death: blunt force trauma. Manner of death: undetermined. But there was one detail that sent a tremor through Monroe's hands. Traces of sedative in Ethan's bloodstream. A drug called temazepam, a prescription sleeping pill. One prescribed not to Ethan, not to Ryan, but to Vanessa Martin. At that moment, Monroe understood what had really happened that night, or thought he did. Vanessa didn't come to stop a fight. She came to end one. Ethan wasn't supposed to die by accident. He was supposed to pass out. She had planned to stage everything, make it look like he slipped, make Alicia look innocent, and bury the truth before it surfaced. But something went wrong. He fought back, and the wrong person fell. Now, there was only one problem. Someone else already knew this truth, because as Monroe stared at the report, a courier dropped off an anonymous envelope. No sender, no address. Inside, a flash drive, labeled only. "If she finds out, we're both dead." He slid it into his laptop. Static, then video, a recording from the night of the wedding. The suite. Alicia, Ethan, Ryan, and another shadowed figure near the door. Vanessa, holding a glass, smiling, and saying the same words her daughter once swore she'd never forget. "Love don't feed you, baby." Detective Monroe didn't sleep that night. The video looped in his mind over and over again. Vanessa's cold smirk, the shimmer of the champagne glass in her hand, and the sound of her voice echoing through the speakers like a curse. "Love don't feed you, baby." The same words Alicia once whispered when she thought no one was listening. Now, he finally understood where she'd learned them. The flash drive was dated, time-stamped, and clear enough to destroy lives. It showed Vanessa stepping into the bridal suite seconds before Ethan's death, holding what looked like a half-filled drink. She wasn't supposed to be there. She wasn't even invited. And yet, there she was in the middle of it all. By sunrise, Monroe had a decision to make. He could take the footage straight to the press, let the world see the monster behind the mask. Or he could hold it back, protect the case until he knew the full truth. He chose the second, because something about Vanessa Martin didn't add up. Women like her didn't just act out of panic. They planned. They played long games. And Monroe had a feeling this one wasn't over. Across town, Alicia woke to the sound of rain and her mother's perfume. Vanessa was standing by her bed, dressed in black, calm as ever. "You need to pack your things," she said. "We're leaving." Alicia blinked, confused. "Leaving? What?" "Because that detective will come for you next. They always come for the woman, baby. Better to disappear before they decide what story to tell." Alicia sat up, her hands shaking. "Mom, what are you talking about?" "Ethan's death was an accident." Vanessa gave her a pitying look. "Accident? Sweetheart, there's no such thing. Everything that happens to people like us is either strategy or stupidity. Which one are you?" Those words hit Alicia like a slap. "You were there, weren't you?" she whispered. Vanessa didn't answer. She didn't need to. The silence said everything. When Monroe arrived later that morning, the house was already empty. The front door unlocked, the curtains open, and a single glass left on the counter, lipstick on the rim. He looked around the kitchen. Something glinted under the light. A wedding photo. Ethan, smiling. Alicia beside him. And standing a few feet behind them, blurred in the background, Vanessa. It wasn't just a mother at her daughter's wedding. It looked like a woman supervising a deal. Back at headquarters, Monroe called Ryan in for another statement. The younger Cole looked worse than ever, pale, unshaven, hollow-eyed. "She's gone," Monroe said flatly. "Who?" "Your sister-in-law. And her mother." Ryan's jaw tightened. "She ran?" "Looks like it." Ryan slumped back. "You don't understand. Vanessa doesn't run from anything. If she's gone, it's because she's about to do something worse." "What do you mean?" Monroe asked. Ryan's voice cracked. "She's been controlling Alicia since she was a kid. Every decision, every move. She made her marry Ethan. She told her to lie. You think Alicia was the manipulator?" "No, she was the puppet." Monroe leaned forward. "Then why didn't you say that earlier?" Ryan's eyes filled with tears. "Because I didn't believe it myself. Not until Ethan showed me." "Showed you what?" Ryan hesitated, then reached into his jacket pocket and slid an envelope across the table. "He found something weeks before the wedding. He mailed it to me. Said if anything happened, I'd know who was responsible." Inside the envelope was a photo, grainy, black and white surveillance footage. Vanessa at a bank, standing beside a man with a familiar face. Ethan's company accountant. And the date? 2 weeks before Ethan died. Monroe stared at the photo, his mind connecting the dots like blood on broken glass. Vanessa had motive, money. Ethan's financial records showed large, untraceable withdrawals made from a joint business account shortly before his death. Each one approved electronically, using a copied signature. Alicia's. The accounts were drained, millions gone. That wasn't love. That was embezzlement disguised as marriage. While Monroe pieced it together, Alicia and Vanessa were already miles away, driving through the back roads of North Carolina, the rain pouring in sheets across the windshield. Alicia sat in silence, her stomach in knots. "Mom," she said quietly, "what did you do?" Vanessa didn't look away from the road. "I did what any mother would do. I protected you." "From what?" "From yourself." Alicia's voice rose. "Ethan didn't deserve to die." Vanessa's knuckles tightened around the steering wheel. "Ethan was about to ruin us. He found the accounts. He was planning to cut you off, leave you with nothing. You'd have gone back to being that scared little girl who couldn't afford a meal. I wasn't about to let that happen." "So you killed him?" Alicia whispered. Vanessa's eyes flicked toward her, sharp, cold, certain. "I saved you. There's a difference." Alicia turned away, tears sliding silently down her cheeks. For years, she believed her mother's lessons were armor, protection from heartbreak. But now, she realized they were poison. Every saying she'd memorized as truth was just another chain. Love don't feed you, baby. A man's promise can't pay rent. Pick the bank account, not the butterflies. Those weren't lessons. They were warnings from a woman who'd stopped believing in love and started worshiping power. And Alicia was finally seeing the cost. Hours later, they checked into a roadside motel. 2 fake names, cash payment, curtains drawn. Vanessa poured 2 glasses of wine and handed one to Alicia. "To freedom," she said softly. Alicia didn't drink. She just stared at the glass, remembering the same scene from the wedding night. A drink, a smile, and the moment everything went wrong, her voice trembled. "Did you drug him?" Vanessa froze mid-sip. "What?" "Ethan. Did you drug him before he fell?" Vanessa's jaw tightened. "Don't be ridiculous. They found the sedatives, Mom. In his blood." Vanessa's glass clinked softly as she set it down. "Then maybe he took them himself." Alicia stood up, shaking her head. "No, you brought that champagne. You poured his drink. You killed him." Vanessa rose slowly, her expression shifting from annoyance to fury. "Watch your tone, Alicia. You wouldn't have anything if it weren't for me. You ruined everything." Alicia screamed. "You made me marry a man I didn't love. You made me lie, and now he's dead." Vanessa's voice dropped to a whisper, calm, deadly. "You think you'd survive without me? I made you who you are, and if I have to clean up one more mess, I will." The room went quiet. Alicia backed away toward the door, shaking. "You're sick." "No, baby," Vanessa said, smiling faintly. "I'm realistic." But neither of them noticed the small red light blinking in the corner of the room. A security camera. The motel clerk had recognized their faces from the news and called the police hours ago. Everything they said was being recorded, and Detective Monroe, tracking Alicia's phone signal, was already on his way. 30 minutes later, red and blue lights flooded the parking lot. Vanessa tried to run, but Monroe was faster. He grabbed her arm, his voice sharp. "It's over, Mrs. Martin." Alicia stood frozen, tears streaming down her face. Her mother turned to her one last time, eyes full of something between pride and venom. "Don't look at me like that," Vanessa said. "I did all this for you." Alicia's reply came out as a whisper, small, broken, final. "No, Mom. You did it for yourself." Vanessa smiled faintly. "Same thing." As the officers led her away, Monroe approached Alicia gently. "You're safe now," he said. But Alicia shook her head. "No one's safe. Not really. My mother taught me that." Monroe paused, glancing back at the car where Vanessa sat cuffed, staring out the window with that same haunting calm. He thought the case was over. But as he turned to leave, a call came through his radio. "Detective, we found something in the motel room. A second flash drive, labeled insurance." Monroe's stomach tightened, because if Vanessa Martin had an insurance file, then someone else might have been helping her all along. The morning after Ethan's funeral, the Cole estate was silent, too silent. Even the walls seemed to hold their breath. Rain drizzled softly against the windows, the kind of slow, relentless downpour that seeps into your bones. The sky was gray, swollen, heavy like it was morning too. Alicia sat at the kitchen table, still in the black dress from the service. Her eyes were red, but not from grief. From exhaustion, from fear, from the weight of pretending. The world saw a widow, broken, fragile, pitted. But beneath the veil, Alicia was something else entirely. A woman walking the edge of a secret that could destroy her. Across the room, Ryan leaned against the counter, watching her. The smell of coffee filled the air, but neither of them touched it. They hadn't spoken since that night. Since the night. And now, with Ethan buried, the silence between them was worse than any argument could have been. Ryan broke first. "You can't keep pretending forever, Alicia." Her eyes snapped up, sharp, defensive. "Pretending about what?" He stepped closer. "About what happened. About him. About us." She swallowed hard, her voice trembling just enough to sound believable. "Ethan's gone, Ryan. There's nothing left to talk about. But Ryan wasn't buying it. He never did. He moved closer until he could see the tiny tremor in her hands. You think lies can save you? You think you can just erase it? Alicia's eyes flashed. I did what I had to do. Her words came out cold, almost practiced. Ryan's jaw tightened. You killed him. The air split in half with that accusation. Alicia's eyes darted to the window, to the door, anywhere but him. Her voice lowered to a whisper. You don't know what happened. Ryan took another step. I was there, Alicia. I heard him. I saw. Enough, she snapped, her voice breaking for the first time. And for a brief moment, the mask slipped. He saw the guilt, the panic buried under layers of control. Then she stood, straightening her dress, her tone regaining that icy calm. If you love me, Ryan, you'll keep your mouth shut. Ryan left the house before noon, unable to breathe around her lies. He drove aimlessly through the rain, headlights cutting through the mist, Ethan's voice haunting him like a ghost he couldn't bury. Every corner of his mind replayed that night. Ethan's shout, the crash, the silence that followed. He told himself it was an accident. He told himself Alicia panicked. But deep down he knew something about the way she had looked at Ethan before it happened. That mix of anger and fear told him there was more. He pulled into a parking lot and slammed the steering wheel, his breath shaking. He loved her. God help him, he loved her. But the truth was starting to rot him from the inside out. He reached for his phone and scrolled through the photos. Ethan smiling, Alicia laughing. The three of them at the engagement dinner. Then he saw it. A video Ethan had sent him weeks before the wedding. A short clip of the vineyard construction progress. Ryan hesitated, then hit play. The video was normal at first. Ethan walking, describing plans for the ceremony. But then, faintly, another voice in the background. Alicia's. He turned the volume up. We can't keep doing this, Ryan. If Ethan finds out, we're both done. Ryan froze. His pulse spiked. The clip ended abruptly, but that was enough. Ethan must have heard it. That's why his phone was recording that night. Ethan knew. Detective Monroe wasn't satisfied with the accident story either. He came back to the Cole estate 2 days later. Same gray coat, same calm stare, same questions disguised as casual curiosity. Alicia played the grieving widow perfectly. Tearful, polite, cooperative. Yes, detective, Ethan had been drinking. Yes, it was a horrible accident. Yes, I wish I could remember more. But Monroe wasn't fooled. He noticed her hands trembling every time she mentioned the word fall. After an hour, he stood to leave, pausing at the door. Mrs. Cole, he said softly, if you think of anything at all, call me. She nodded, forcing a small smile. But as soon as he was gone, she locked the door, leaned against it, and slid to the floor. Because she had remembered something. Something she'd buried so deep it hurt to think about. The look in Ethan's eyes when he realized the truth. The sound of his voice breaking when he said, Ryan, it's him, isn't it? And then the shove, the crash, the silence. Her hands had shaken so badly, she almost didn't call Ryan. But she did. He came running. He saw the body. He helped her clean up. And now, he was her only witness and her biggest threat. That night, unable to sleep, Alicia went into Ethan's study. The police had taken most of his things, but she noticed his laptop was still on the desk. She opened it, and there it was. A folder titled, October Wedding, Personal Notes. Her heart pounded. She clicked it open. Inside were voice memos, recordings, notes, Ethan's private thoughts. She played one. His voice filled the room. I think she's hiding something. Ryan's been distant. If I'm wrong, I'll delete this. But if I'm right, I'll need proof. Her chest tightened. Her throat went dry. Then she played the next one. I heard them tonight. They think I'm asleep. God, I wish I was wrong. Alicia's fingers shook as she deleted each file, one by one. But when she reached the last one, the system froze. Error. File in use. Panic clawed at her chest. She tried again, same result. And then, at the top corner of the screen, a small message appeared. backup syncing to cloud storage. 2 minutes remaining. Alicia's stomach dropped. Ethan had backed everything up. Every file, every voice memo, every secret. She stared at the screen, whispering to herself, "Oh God, no," because she knew exactly what it meant. Even from the grave, Ethan wasn't done with her. And soon, neither was Detective Monroe. The truth always finds a way to crawl out, no matter how deep you bury it. And Detective Monroe was about to dig up something that should have stayed dead. It was 3:12 a.m. when the alert came through. Ethan Cole's cloud account, locked since his death, had just been accessed. The IP address traced back to Alicia's laptop. Monroe sat up straight, eyes narrowing. For weeks, he'd suspected she was hiding something. But this was the proof he'd been waiting for. He poured a cup of stale coffee, pulled on his jacket, and drove straight to the station. Because if Alicia had opened Ethan's account, she wasn't just grieving. She was cleaning up. Meanwhile, across town, Alicia sat alone in her living room, her face pale under the blue glow of her screen. The file she'd found on Ethan's cloud wasn't what she expected. It wasn't photos or letters. It was a video, labeled simply, "For Ryan." Her pulse quickened. She clicked play. On the screen, Ethan's face appeared. Alive. Calm. Almost too calm. "If you're watching this," Ethan said, his voice steady, "then I guess I was right. You've been lying to me." Alicia froze. "I knew something was wrong. The late calls. The silence. The way you couldn't look me in the eye." He sighed, glancing down. "I checked the camera footage from the Vineyard office. You and Ryan. I saw everything." Her heart slammed against her ribs. "I'm not angry," Ethan continued. "Just broken. You could have told me the truth. You both could have." Then came the part that made her blood run cold. "But if anything happens to me, if this wedding turns into something it shouldn't, they'll find this recording. And they'll know who did it." The video ended. Alicia sat there in silence, shaking. She didn't know what was worse, that Ethan had known, or that he'd predicted his own death. By morning, Detective Monroe had everything he needed to set his trap. He requested a warrant, placed surveillance on Alicia's house, and quietly arranged for Ryan's release. Because Ryan Cole was cracking fast. He'd stopped eating, stopped sleeping. Every time Monroe mentioned Ethan's name, Ryan flinched like he'd been hit. The detective didn't need a confession. He just needed a reaction. That afternoon, Monroe walked into the interrogation room where Ryan sat, pale, hollow-eyed, lost. "You know what's funny, Ryan?" Monroe began softly. "Your brother recorded everything. He knew about the affair. He even left a message." Ryan looked up sharply. "What message?" "A video," Monroe said. "He sent it to his cloud account. It's been accessed. By Alicia." Ryan's face went still. "No, she wouldn't." "She did." Monroe leaned forward. "And she's not deleting evidence to protect you. She's protecting herself." Ryan swallowed hard. "You don't understand." "Oh, I do," Monroe interrupted. "You think she loves you. You think she's the victim. But tell me, Ryan, where was she when your brother fell? What did she say after?" Ryan's breathing quickened. "She said it was an accident." "And you believed her?" Ryan's hands clenched into fists. "I wanted to, but you didn't," Monroe pressed. "Because you saw what really happened, didn't you?" Ryan's eyes filled with tears. He looked away. She pushed him," he whispered. "But she didn't mean to." He grabbed her arm, and she panicked. It was fast. He fell. "And then what?" Monroe asked quietly. "Her mother came in. Vanessa. She said no one would believe us, that we had to make it look like an accident. So she drugged him first?" Ryan froze. "What?" Ethan had sedatives in his blood. Ryan, not prescribed to him. Prescribed to Vanessa Martin. Ryan blinked, realization dawning, and terror followed. "You're saying she planned it?" "I'm saying your mother-in-law might have killed your brother before you ever walked into that room." That night, Ryan did something Monroe didn't expect. He called Alicia. "We need to talk," he said, his voice shaking. "Meet me where it started." That meant the Vineyard. Monroe listened in from the surveillance van, headphones tight over his ears. This was it, the final play. Alicia arrived just after midnight. The vineyard was empty, quiet, the kind of silence that makes the world feel haunted. Ryan stood by the altar where they'd said their vows. His eyes were red, his hands trembling. "You knew, didn't you?" he said. "You knew he recorded everything." "Ryan, please. Don't lie to me anymore," he shouted. "You and your mother, you planned this." "Stop it," she whispered. "You don't know what you're saying. Then tell me the truth." Alicia stepped closer, tears streaking her makeup. "I didn't plan to kill him. I swear. He was angry. He pushed me. And the drugs." Ryan cut in. "Vanessa's pills in his system." "Explain that." Alicia froze. Ryan's voice broke. "She set you up, Alicia. She used both of us." From the shadows, Monroe watched through binoculars, every word transmitting live to his recorder. But then, Alicia did something he didn't see coming. She laughed. Not softly, not nervously, but hollow, empty. "Set me up," she said, her voice trembling with a strange calm. "Ryan, she didn't set me up. She saved me." "What are you talking about?" Alicia's eyes glistened under the moonlight. "Ethan wasn't innocent. He found out about the affair. He said he'd ruin us both. Take the baby, destroy my life. I told my mother I couldn't handle it. She told me she'd handle him." Ryan stepped back, horrified. "So you let her kill him?" Alicia's lips trembled. "I didn't know what she'd do. I thought she'd just scare him. And when he fell, I panicked," she screamed. "You think I wanted this? I wanted peace, not this nightmare." Ryan's voice cracked. "You wanted security, just like your mother taught you." Alicia's breath hitched. "Don't you dare judge me. Love doesn't feed you, Ryan. Remember that." That was when Monroe stepped out of the shadows. "That's enough," he said, his gun drawn. "Alicia Martin, you're under arrest for the murder of Ethan Cole." Alicia's eyes went wide. Ryan froze. "You think this end with me?" she whispered. "You have no idea what my mother's capable of." Monroe's tone hardened. "Your mother's already in custody. She confessed an hour ago." The color drained from Alicia's face. She confessed to drugging Ethan, to being there, to everything. For a moment, silence. Then Alicia's expression changed. Not fear, not anger, but something colder. "Then she lied," she said quietly, "because she wasn't the only one who wanted him dead." Monroe frowned. "What do you mean?" Alicia met his eyes. "Play the rest of Ethan's recording. There's more. The part he never uploaded." And just like that, the trap Monroe thought he'd set snapped shut on him. Because when the missing file surfaced later that night, it revealed something that would shake everything they believed and expose a truth darker than anyone imagined. Love begins with promises, but sometimes it ends with recordings. Because the truth about Ethan Cole's death wasn't what anyone thought. It was 2:47 a.m. when Detective Monroe finally accessed the missing segment of Ethan's recording, the part Alicia said had never been uploaded. He sat in the evidence room, the light flickering overhead, exhaustion etched into his face. The file loaded slowly. One last message from a dead man. "This isn't easy," Ethan's voice began, calm but shaky. "I thought I could forgive her. I thought I could pretend. But I was wrong." He paused, breathing heavily. "I found the pills. The ones Vanessa gave her. I know what they were for. Not me, her." Monroe frowned, leaning closer. "She's been having episodes. Blackouts. The doctor warned her. Said if she stopped the medication, things could get dangerous. I tried to help, but she wouldn't listen." Then a sound, faint, almost like crying. Ethan's voice softened. "If anything happens to me, don't blame her. She's not well. She doesn't even remember half of what she does anymore." Static. Then another voice cut in, softer, trembling. "Alicia's. Ethan, please stop recording. Alicia, you need help. No, you're not taking him from me. You can't." A scream, a crash, the sound of glass shattering. Then silence. And in that silence, Monroe heard it. A heartbeat of truth that changed everything. Ethan wasn't poisoned. He wasn't attacked by Vanessa. He was pushed by a woman who didn't even know what she was doing. Alicia hadn't killed him out of greed. She'd killed him in a moment of madness. By morning, the truth spread through the media like wildfire. Final recording reveals mental breakdown behind Ethan Cole's death. Public sympathy shifted overnight. Alicia wasn't the villain anymore. She was the tragedy. But Monroe couldn't shake the feeling that something still didn't add up. Because if Alicia truly didn't remember what she did, then who cleaned up the crime scene? Who deleted the files? Who staged the accident? He went to see Vanessa Martin one last time. She sat in the holding cell, still calm, still immaculate, like prison was just another room to conquer. You knew about her condition, Monroe said quietly. Of course I did, Vanessa replied. A mother knows everything. You could have stopped her. And what? Let her rot in some hospital while the world called her insane. Monroe's voice hardened. You manipulated her. You covered it up. Vanessa smiled faintly. I protected her. That's what mothers do. No, Monroe said, standing. You protected your image. You taught her that survival matters more than love. And that's what killed Ethan. Her eyes flashed cold. Love kills women, detective. It always has. I just made sure it didn't kill my daughter first. Across town, Alicia sat in the psychiatric wing of the county hospital, staring out the window as the rain traced lines down the glass. She didn't cry. She didn't speak. She just whispered over and over. He said he'd take the baby. Ryan visited once, standing behind the glass partition, unable to look her in the eye. When she finally turned toward him, she smiled faintly, like she remembered something beautiful in the middle of all the ruin. You were the only thing that ever felt real, she said softly. But love doesn't feed you, Ryan. You taught me that too. He pressed his hand to the glass. I never wanted any of this. Neither did I. Then she turned away, and that was the last time he ever saw her. 6 months later, the vineyard was sold. Ethan's grave rested beneath an old oak tree, marked only by a small marble plaque. Ryan moved away. No forwarding address, no goodbye. Vanessa's trial dragged on for months, ending with a suspended sentence and public outrage. And Detective Monroe, he retired. But the case never really left him, because something still haunted him about that final recording. There was one line, buried in the static, that didn't make sense until much later. Alicia's voice, faint and slurred, right after Ethan fell. You were never supposed to hear this. Mom. Not Ethan. Not Ryan. Mom. It hit Monroe one night while reviewing old Evans files. The voice assistant on Ethan's phone, the one that automatically saved recordings when triggered by sound. Vanessa had been the one to activate it. She'd been in the room earlier that evening, setting up, staging, making sure everything looked perfect. And when the shouting started, she didn't intervene. She recorded it, not to protect Alicia, to control her. Because the moment Ethan died, Vanessa had exactly what she wanted, total leverage. Her daughter would never leave her, never disobey, never love anyone more than her again. It wasn't a cover-up. It was possession. Monroe drove out to the vineyard one last time. The vines had overgrown, wild and untamed, like the truth itself. He walked to the old oak tree, rain falling softly. In his hand, he held the final transcript, the official closing note of the case. Death ruled accidental. Mental breakdown confirmed. Case closed. He folded it slowly, then looked up at the grave. You deserved better, Ethan, he said quietly. All of you did. A gust of wind rustled through the leaves. And for just a moment, he thought he heard a whisper, soft, distant, carried on the rain. Love don't feed you, baby. He turned sharply. No one there. Just the echo of a lesson that ruined generations. In the end, the truth didn't set anyone free. It just revealed how deep the rot went. Alicia was still in treatment. Vanessa vanished after her release, her fortune intact, her reputation barely bruised. And Ryan Cole, the man who lost everything, was last seen singing in a roadside bar under a fake name. Some said he still writes songs about her, the woman who taught him that love is never what it seems. But Detective Monroe, he learned his own truth from the case, that sometimes the most dangerous crimes aren't the ones committed for hate. They're the ones committed in the name of love.